And I now welcome Ivon. Okay, now I'm going to make a fool out of myself. It's Witteveen. Did I pronounce it correctly?
I don't know. Legally, certainly not. I pronounce it Witteveen.
Witteveen, okay. And Ivon is going to talk to us about another very interesting topic, extracurricular astronomy for preschool and elementary school kids. So Ivon, the floor is yours. I will let you know when you have 5 minutes left, so you have some time to answer to questions, okay? So
Okay,
you can share your screen.
Okay, I will start. Okay, so you see it in
Perfectly.
Okay, thank you. Okay, my name is Ivon Witteveen, and I work at the Liceo Franco Argentino Jean Mermoz in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, and teaching extracurricular astronomy for preschool and elementary school kids. I found kids are really curious about, oh, I cannot. Okay, there we are. Children are really curious about astronomy and they always want to know more about it, but they don't usually have much astronomy in class. So an extracurricular activity doing astronomy is always an interesting way to fulfill that curiosity and to make them even more curious. Here I will share with you some of the activities we do during the year. There are mostly daytime activities because we meet during the day. We have class right after school day, so it always is daytime. So we work comparing things, for instance, the sun and the stars, so I can see the previous ideas the kids have about the colors and about the shapes of the stars and the sun. We compare an observatory and a planetarium. So because I usually take them to visit one or the other during the year, we compare a rocket which goes from the Earth to the Moon with a lunar module that is capable to take off from the Moon. So we talk a bit about gravity, and we see we weigh less in the Moon. So I bring a scale and I weigh the kids so they can then after compare how much would they weigh in the Moon, like a baby, like a cat, like a big dog. We also compare the positions of the sun in the sky during the day and what's in the sky at night. We compare the size of the sun with the size of the planets. In this activity, we have to glue together some big yellow pieces of paper. So we have to work in the floor. As we work in the floor, I try to add a bit more fun by taking off our shoes, even me, so they will remember that that was the day when everybody took off their shoes. We compare not only with the drawings, but also with Play-Doh, so I can know what they think in 3D the shapes are. Not only for the sun and the stars, but also for the moon phases or the moon itself, and also the planets. We work with stories. I tell them stories about, for instance, the sun when going missing suddenly, and what would it still be there and what wouldn't if the sun was not there anymore. Or a story about Orion's constellation or some other constellation, so they can look for it at night at home. And they complete these stories with drawings, so they make their own books. Sometimes they tell me the stories about a constellation they made up or about a figure they imagined in the surface of the moon. We make models. In this case, this is a picture of an exhibition. That's why we did those beautiful big styrofoam planets. and they were representing the distances in a different scale than the scale we used for the planets. We also do the solar system model in scale during the year. So here the planets are not so sophisticated, but they represent how the planets move around the Earth, around the moon, the sun, sorry. And sometimes we make the solar system in the same scale for the distances and the sizes. So the orange balloon is the sun in this case, and each kid has a card with its planet on it. So they get to put them at the corresponding distance. Then after one kid ate the Earth, it was a peppercorn. This is kind of a model of the moon surface, so we can see how craters form. We make models also for the comets. This is the simple one made out of Play-Doh. We make more sophisticated ones or even different ones in newspaper. But the best thing is when every year, because they love it, I bring a recipe to build a real comet, and I bring also the things we will need, a bit dirt and carbonic ice. So I make this experience because it's a bit complicated, but the kids help me by reading the recipe and bringing me the water I need. So that's how it looks like when it is finished. And what I do at the end is that I break it into small pieces, so each kid can take a bit of comet at home. And they told me they kept it for months in the freezer. So I don't think parents would be very happy with me. This is a different kind of model. This is the Oreo moons. We made the moons, the faces of the moon in Oreos, so we can eat them at the end of the class. Sometimes I bring the model. This is my Earth Moon model to the scale of these distances and sizes. We use it to make some lights and shadows experiences to understand the eclipses or the moon phases. We can also understand the moon phases with a styrofoam ball lighted by the sun. Some other light and shadow experiences are this one, for instance, simulating the path of the sun in the sky just to understand a sundial. Here, trying to understand the day and night or the seasons. With the smaller kids in preschool, we first play a bit with the shadows to understand how they work in the schoolyard. We also learned to use some instruments like a sky chart. This was for an exhibition at night. We build different instruments. This is a telescope. Those are really simple telescopes that won't work very much to see the sky, but they're very useful to understand how a telescope works. We make a star counter to count how many stars we can see in the sky, and even a sextant. We also play some games. When we learned a bit about the moon, we make this moon game where they have to answer questions in teams. So each one gets to draw and cut its own rocket just to move on the board. And this is another game. This is a cookie catcher. Inside, we have a sky chart. So when you choose Leo, for instance, we will find inside a constellation in the sky chart, and that's the one you have to look for in the sky. Kids also bring me some news they found online, for instance, and they share it with the other kids. And sometimes I bring the news, for instance, when they found 20 new moons around Saturn and it became the king of the moons, surpassing Jupiter. We always observe astronomical events, but I don't usually take them to the events or to observe them because the time is always or holidays or weekend, never in our time. So what I do is I invite them to the planetarium to meet me there because the planetarium is really close to the school. And that's the way I can also involve the families. So they are also aware of this partial solar eclipse, for instance. This eclipse in particular was early in the morning in a school day. So the kids had the authorization to get a bit late to school to see it at the planetarium. And as they were the only kids there, they got to be interviewed by different television channels and radios. We also met for Mercury transits. And then after in class, they draw what they saw. With the kids in preschool, it's hard to, we cannot see how an eclipse works. So we do some previous work before the eclipse and we make a flip book. So that's how it looks like. So they will know what they will see in a total solar eclipse. I also take them to visit the La Plata Observatory. It's a beautiful place with a very big, old telescope, almost 10 meters long. And I don't take them anytime, I just take them at night. So that's what we could see one of the times we were there, Jupiter and its moons. They have also piece of meteorite there, so kids can touch it and they can also hold it, so they can see how heavy it is. Sometimes I cannot take them to the observatory, so I take them to the planetarium to see a show. And at the entrance of the planetarium, they have bigger meteorites, so I bring some magnets with me so the kids can stick it on the meteorite and they will remember it's made of iron. And we do an exhibition once or twice, usually twice a year. The mid-year exhibition takes place at night, so that's when we use the sky chart I showed you earlier. And we also observe through the telescope. This telescope belongs to my extracurricular activity, to astronomy. And it says Discovery because we named it. We made some kind of a contest and we voted, and that's the name we decided it would have. During this exhibition, the kids showed to the parents what they learned on their drawings. And it was nice because sometimes some parents told me that, for instance, they understood finally how an eclipse worked. And lately, the end of the year exhibition takes place during the day because all extracurricular activities have their end of the year exhibition at the same time. So I cannot make what I used to, that I always chose to do the end of the year exhibition also at night, so we could compare what we saw in the winter sky with the summer sky. But as we have to show what we did at the end of the year during the day, we do some hands-on activities. In this case, the kids brought an old umbrella and they were drawing there the constellations. So each kid will bring back home bits of the sky, a piece of the sky. And what I'm doing there is that I'm adding something fun. I'm just putting some glow in the dark nail polish. So when they use it at home, they will see the stars glowing in the dark.
You have 5 minutes left.
Okay, thank you.
4 minutes.
Thank you. So last year on lockdown, there were no activities. We didn't even get the time to register. So I wanted to do something with the kids, and what I did is I came up with the idea to do something I couldn't do normally in class, that is to see the sky at night. So I opened a YouTube channel and then made and uploaded one really short video each week, 2 or 3 minutes long. So at the time there was Venus at sunset in the sky. So that was my first video. And on the next video, I would tell them about some features or some things about Venus and what they could look for in the sky near Venus and so on. So every video would have something new to look for in the sky and something about the last thing they were watching the previous week. Then after, one of my students asked me to meet them by Zoom because she wanted to interact with me. So we met, and then after that, I proposed an activity related to the night sky to make via Zoom. And so we met with her and other kids, and we made a constellation jar. And then after winter holidays, the school decided to do some Zoom meetings for the extracurricular activities. There were really short meetings, only 40 minutes. And I chose also to do some hands-on activities. We did, for instance, a pinhole projector because there was an eclipse in December the same year. So that was the way they could look to the sun. And we also made a straw rocket, so you can launch the rocket by blowing into the straw. So that was all I have to share with you. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed doing this with the kids. I stop sharing.
Thank you very much, Ivon. I have this feeling that I would love to be in a school or in a group of students that would benefit from your activities. You keep your students busy for sure.
Yes.
I think they are very privileged because you've covered a lot of topics, a lot of different things while you're working with them, things that are not trivial. And I'm sure they will grow up to be very literate astronomy pursuers. So you work for a particular school, or it's you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I work in the Liceo Franco Argentino Jean Mermoz because they had this calling for proposals for extracurricular activities.
Okay.
So I started there.
And it's just students from that school that can participate in your extracurricular activities.
Yes.
Okay, I see. Okay.
I also work at the La Plata Planetarium and Observatory, but I'm kind of a visitor's guide.
Okay.
So, but the activity is different.
Okay.
I also work with students because there are students coming, schools coming, but it's a different activity.
Carl, is a quick question. We don't have time anymore. You have to be quick.
What about, have you, it may you said it, but have you tried online activities too? You know, remote teacher and activities distant?
Only Zoom activities, the hands-on activities I showed. No, nothing else.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Ivon.